Hello, race fans. Welcome back to Off the Track podcast, where you get the dirt. I'm Levi Gotzi, and we're here at Blue Chip Technologies Racing Engines, located right here in Heltonville, Indiana. And today we've got joining us on the show, Lee Hobbs. Welcome, Lee.
Hi.
I'm glad you made it out today.
Yep, a little cold out.
It is. It's pretty darn cold. We've been pretty fortunate this winter so far as not having any terrible temperatures, but today's one of those days where it got pretty cold.
Yeah, it's been cold all day.
Yeah. Now, you are from Mitchell, Indiana.
Well, it's where I'm at now. I used to be from Smithville, Indiana, which up by Lake Monroe.
Okay.
That's where I was raised at.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Well, there's one good question right there, right out of the gate. Well, that's pretty cool. We're kind of wanting to get you out here and just talk about dirt racing, how you got your start. It's one of them things where a lot of fans out there really don't know too much about the driver behind the wheel a lot of times, and we just kind of want to give everybody a little, up to date on how you got your start and kind of a little more about what made you decide to get into racing,
I've been in it a long time.
Yeah. I know you've been doing it all my life.
Yeah, well.
Seems like it. I'm 36, so.
I've raced for 38 years. So.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So what did make you get interested in it?
My dad actually helped my Uncle Don build cars. And I had three uncles that raced, Don, Paul, and Bill. They all raced. Uncle Don was one that raced the most. And then Uncle Paul raced quite a bit. And I just run around the racetracks when I was in diapers, I think.
Right.
But Dad always helped him build the cars. So all of us kids, we'd all go over and help him strip the cars or grab a grinder, 8, 9 years old, 7 years old, and grab a grinder or whatever and think we was big stuff.
Right.
And it just got in my blood, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, once it gets in the blood, it's hard to get it out.
Yes, it is.
Anybody that races can relate to that. I know myself, it's definitely a hard thing to just walk away from and not want to get back in it at some point. And
yeah.
For you, as far as I know, you never did walk away from it. You've done it solid, right?
Yeah, I sold everything I had back in the early 80s and was going to get out of it.
Yeah.
2 weeks later, I bought everything back and I paid more for it.
Yeah.
so yeah.
Didn't work out.
I pretty well raced, on and off, for the 38 years. Used to do a lot of traveling and maybe thinking about doing it again this year a little bit.
Is that right?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. So what age did you actually get behind the wheel?
I don't even remember how old I was.
Yeah.
I think it was like 83. I'll be 56 next month. So
probably about 20 or so.
Yeah. 19, 20, somewhere.
Pretty young, really.
Yeah.
A lot of guys, some guys are lucky enough to get started when they're pretty young. And some guys, like my dad, I don't think he got started until he was 33 or 34, if I'm thinking right. So
yeah. I've known your dad all my life pretty much.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what year he started, but many, many years ago.
Yeah. Well, so what was your first division that you got in?
Well, they called them street stock back then.
Yeah.
And it was about like the pure stocks are today, but I had about $500 in my whole car, so
right.
a lot cheaper back then.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot cheaper and probably made a little more when you won compared to the bang for the buck nowadays as far as what you invest in a car and what your winnings are.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes I hear Grandpa stories and how much he had invested in his car and how much he was winning, but it all changes. Price of gas and everything is so much more expensive nowadays. The cost of living.
Well, back in the day, you $5,000 or $6,000, so in your car, and you go and run pretty good. And I always told everybody what I had in my car was $500 or $600, and I could probably sell it for $300 and made money on it.
Yeah.
You know. But today it's just so much different than it was back then, and it's almost took the fun out of it.
Right. Yeah, I've heard multiple drivers say that in the last few years, being back around it. I stepped away from it for a good little bit of time and getting back into things. I'm kind of out of date on a lot of stuff, shock technology and everything that most guys are doing nowadays. You know, it's definitely changed a lot.
Well, it's changed a lot. I went back into modified racing 2016 again, and I thought it was going to be pretty cheap. And actually, today we put some higher dollar shocks on there in 2016, and I couldn't do nothing with them. So I went back old school.
Okay.
Put 4 individual different shocks on the car and went to North Vernon and won the feature.
There you go.
So I've probably got about maybe anywhere from $3,500 to $6,500 in my car, race ready minus motor. So
Right.
I'm still old schooling it and
Right.
having fun with doing what I'm doing.
Right. Well, that's good. That's good. So you ran the the street stock division when you first got started. You got into the modifieds at pretty early stage of the modifieds, I feel like. I know you were running them back in like early 2000.
My first
But late 90s, I feel like you were in them.
Well, my first modified I built was in 2000. I mean, 19. Let's see, 93, I believe.
93.
Yeah, and that was my first modified I built.
Okay.
And I stayed in it for a little while, and then went back to street stock.
Yeah.
Back to modified, back to street stock, but. I don't know. I like the street stock better than pretty much any of them, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't figure that. I really figured you was a mod guy.
Well, I love my mods,
Yeah.
but they're just so expensive, and
Yeah.
you got to keep new tires on them all the time. And like I say,
It gets tough to do.
I can't do it myself.
Right. Yeah. It's it's a tough class, competition wise as well. Not just the money side of things. Not that the super stocks isn't, that class. I mean, honestly, every division has top notch drivers.
Well,
and
they're all out of hand. Every
each class.
Every class is out of hand. It don't matter what you're in. If it's even a go-kart, they're out of hand.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I've actually was talking to a guy just a few days ago. I guess I should say probably a week and a half ago. But he was talking about carts and how expensive that's gotten, how out of hand the price is to be able to get racing. We was just basically talking about if you put the word racing in anything, it's going to be expensive.
It is.
So, what made you choose your number? Just what as far as
Well,
you've been running a zero car for as long as I can think of.
Well, see, I started out at number 45, and Don was 54,
Right.
and Uncle Paul was 45, and then Uncle Paul started driving for Dickie Brenniger, and he run 52 there for years. And I think Uncle Don had run 45 at one time, I'm thinking.
Okay.
But the 45 in the Hobbs, when I started racing, nobody was running it. So that's when I chose to keep going for several years.
Right.
And then when I decided I was going to start building cars for a living, I just wanted the Hobbs, the name Hobbs on the side of my car
out there
with the 0 on it. And I thought that, which, me and Trent Nicholas, he letters all my cars and everything, and he thought that would be pretty cool. And hell, one time I even thought going number 88 with the B's, being 88, but we'll always stick with the 0.
Yeah,
so.
well, it looks good on the car. You can always see it whether it's going down the road, getting pulled to the track, or I know you can't hardly see them nowadays whenever they're in them enclosed trailers and stackers, but. Yeah, I know. As a kid, I mean, I feel like you ran the Hobbs number the most as far as in, my years of remembering you at the track. it definitely always sticks out in my mind. You running that number.
Well, I think you was fairly young when I went back to or when I went to the zero.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I was. So, what was the first track you ever raced at?
Bloomington Speedway.
Is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I ran there, and I just tried staying out of everybody's way.
Right.
And the only thing I can say is I made every feature that the first year I ran.
Is that right?
And finished sixth in the points. And they lapped me. I just stayed out of the way and just got my laps. And that's what I tell all my drivers, that you got to get the laps. You got to earn your respect on the racetrack by getting laps. And I really enjoyed that. I think it was 2 years later or something before I ever even won a race.
Mm-hmm.
But I just went out and we made laps.
Well, it sounds like a pretty good first year to be able to make every show for one, and to get sixth in points. You must have kept the car together and made it every night that they ran.
We went, I like I say, I was from just down the road from the Speedway when I was that young, and I just tried to just go, like I say, go out, and if they'd start lapping me, I'd move up out of the way and
move out of the groove.
Whichever groove they took, the higher or the low, I went the opposite.
Right.
And I never did really get nobody mad my first year, so I
did
pretty good.
That's definitely always good when you don't make anybody mad at the races. So, which track would you have to say is your favorite?
Well,
over all the years of racing, I know it's hard telling how many tracks you've actually been to.
I've been to a lot, but I would have to say Kokomo.
Yeah?
I would have to say Kokomo.
That's a pretty fast track.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. They do a great job track prep.
It's always prepared pretty good, and I like it because the wall around the outside.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't like running up there, but I've won a lot of races up there in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And I've got 3 track championships up there, and the track suits me.
Yeah. Well, you must like it if you got 3 track championships to travel that far to go to a track and to, be able to run that much there. I mean, that's probably a 3.5 hour drive for you.
It's about 3 hours.
3.
Or so, yeah.
That's not too bad then. Yeah, it's amazing sometimes how far guys will travel to hit that favorite track.
That's the bad part about today is you pretty well need to travel. I mean, everybody says stay at your own home track and everything, and that's good. Mm-hmm. But it makes you a better racer if you go out and race other racetracks. Travel around, and I've always done better at my home track when I've went out and run other places, because you don't settle.
Yeah.
You change so much stuff around on your car, then you come back to your home track and, I'm going to try this, and sometimes it works, sometimes it don't.
Right.
But,
yeah. So, what track out of, all these tracks you've ran over the years, because I know you've traveled a lot, you've been to Florida and ran, and what would you say is the most challenging track you race at, as far as getting your setups right and feeling consistent?
Well, I would have to say, since they changed Brownstown, since they made it more of a momentum racetrack, it takes a lot more technology to make your car consistent. Right. Unless you stay there and run every single week.
Yeah.
If you just pop in and out, Brownstown's pretty challenging to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, it most certainly is. I know there's nights where you show up and you think you're going to, have a decent heat race and start at least decent in the pack, and end up not even making the show, or, it's sometimes it can be quite a challenge just to make the main event.
It is at Brownstown.
Yeah.
It used to be fun for me to go to Brownstown. When it was slow down black slick.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's black slick momentum, and you have to have the technology and the shocks, the springs, and you got to have a lot. You got to have a lot in your car.
Right.
And
it makes it tough.
It makes it tough for me because I don't got much in my car.
Right. Well, so Who's your biggest supporter in the modified nowadays, as far as who you got in your corner?
Well, I gotta say Bruce Sturgeon, he stepped up and he wanted me to. Or well, I'd been asking him if he wanted to sponsor a race car again. 'Cause
Yeah.
they got out of it for like 10 or 11 years.
Right.
And he kept telling me there for several years. He said, "Well," he said, "if you get rid of that street stock," he said, "decide to do a modified, I'd help you."
Yeah.
He didn't want to do no street stock.
Okay.
So he said he wanted to get Dustin, his stepboy, back into piddling a little bit. And I said, "Well, let's build a modified."
Mm-hmm.
So he told me he would supply me a motor and stuff and help me here and there and everything and give me a little money to get started on the car. And
Right.
and so we got back into modified, and he owns a motor and stuff and helps me out quite a bit on, this and that.
Yeah.
And I try to keep tires and stuff on it and oil changes and stuff. But I'd have to say the living room center does the most for me.
Right. Which is Bruce. He, I don't know him very well, but everyone that I know seems like knows him, and all I've ever heard is good things about the man. And they've done a great job with the living room center as far as getting several locations out there. I believe they've got 4 now.
He's got 4 or 5.
Yeah.
He's pretty motivated to keep them.
Yeah,
keep them
fully stocked too.
Yes.
Me and my wife was in there just a few weeks ago, and I was amazed by how much stuff they have in there. Well, who all do you got that helps you on the car? Is it just basically you and your wife, Shelley?
Me and my wife. I've been slowing down myself a lot, and she helps me the most, for through the week and stuff. And then I got my grandson. He's coming up and trying to get him going a little bit. And he comes over and helps me a little bit when I need this done or that. If he's not in school and everything.
Well, that's good. Now, how old's your grandson?
He's 14 now. So
that's a perfect age for him to get some shop time and learn more about what it takes.
Well, that's the whole thing. Is I told him, I said, we'll put you something together, and we started putting him an old modified together when he was 12. And finally got him down there, and when he turned 13, and got him a few laps, and just trying to. I told him, I said, it ain't all about going to the racetrack.
Yeah.
You got to earn a little time in the shop. You got to learn about this, and even if you need someone to sweep the floor, or clean tools up.
Right.
And that's what I told him. I said, if you're going to do it, you gotta learn everything.
That's right.
And so he helps me quite a bit when I need it. But for the most part, it's always been me and my wife, going to racetracks together and doing this and that.
Well, I always knew she had to be 100% of a supporter in it, because all the years you guys have been married and worked so hard to be able to race on that kind of level.
Yeah.
It's tough as far as the hours, keeping the car up in the shop, and you make a living building these cars.
Yeah.
And putting them out the door, and between the drag cars you build and the race cars for circle track, I'm sure that it's hard to find the time to keep your own stuff up to par on the maintenance schedule. So basically all day long you're working, and then you probably work on your own stuff at night.
Well, sometimes if I get caught up, I work through mine, on mine in between.
Yeah.
When, if I get a car where I've got to stop on something and wait on something or whatever, then I'll piddle with mine. But for the most part, I usually work through the day in my shop, and then at nighttime, then I go out and piddle with mine. But it's just you just never know when I'm gonna be out there working on my stuff.
Right. Wherever it seems like a good spot to take a break, and then jump back and forth constantly. I understand that. So, what would you have to say as far as your most memorable race over all these years?
Well, the most memorable, I can tell you to this day.
Okay.
Me and my wife, we loaded up. We took a cooler of bologna.
Yeah.
And some pop. We headed down to Richmond, Kentucky, and a big $5,000 national race down there. And I had a stacked leaf modified with a drum brake rear end, and no pull bars, no nothing.
Okay.
And we go down there, and I just wanted to go down there and try it out and, see, because we had a pretty good stack leaf car, and go down there, and I ended up winning that feature. And the first thing out of my mouth when we got done, I'm actually looking around. My wife's looking around. There's about 10 people over there saying, "Where's your pit crew? Where's your pit crew?"
Yeah.
I said, "Well, she's right here."
Right.
And we win this race, and like I said, we took lunch meat. Just barely had enough money to get down there.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, "Hon," I said, "I'm gonna buy you steak dinner on the way home tonight."
There you go.
They paid me with a check.
Oh, so it was baloney all the way home.
Baloney all the way home, but I was smiling all the way home.
Right.
And I'll never forget that.
Well, that's good. That's a good memory. Sometimes memories at the racetrack can be great, and sometimes they can be bad. So with that being said, what would you have to say, looking back over the years, would have been the worst night at the track? As far as a bad crash or
I've had a lot
something
of
that just didn't go right, or maybe a race you were really after to win.
And my worst one, I would have to say, would be at Brownstown. I flipped from pretty much turn 2 all the way down the backstretch, and a couple people said I was as high as the light post. I don't know how high I was. I know it gave me 2 black eyes.
Yeah.
And
was this in a modified?
In a modified.
Okay.
And I went home. I called my brother on the way home. And I said, "Hey," "you think in the morning you can come over and help me get this thing off the trailer?" And I go home after the races, can't even move. I'm so sore. I cut it up in 3 pieces.
Oh.
And the only thing that was salvageable in it was the center cage.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he comes over Sunday, and we put the center part back on the jig.
Yeah.
Trent comes down Friday afternoon and starts lettering it. I have a brand new car built by Friday. I go back to Chandler and win the feature that night with it.
Is that right?
Yep. And that would have to be my worst race, and
and then the quickest turnaround to get back on top of the game.
Yep. Turned around. I think I won 11 features in a row with that car after
after
I rejigged it.
Wow. Well, that's impressive. Yeah. Maybe you needed to rejig it, huh?
Well, evidently.
You probably didn't want to have to do it that way, but that's definitely an interesting story. So, I mean, I guess I was sitting there trying to think of my next question. I don't know about that one. Sometimes guys might have different, thoughts on that one. But so who would you have to say is your favorite competitor?
I got a lot of good competitors.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there's just so many of them out there. I don't think I could say just one.
Yeah, I understand.
I raced real hard up there at Gas City one night with Mike Harrison.
Yeah.
And he was a pretty tough competitor. Believe it or not, I won that night.
Is that right?
Yep.
Well, that's definitely something to talk about.
I remember that one pretty good. I would say he was the toughest at that time that I ran.
Yeah.
But really, I mean, there's so many competitors around here that, I don't think you just pick one.
Yeah, there is. I mean, that's the thing. You leave and go out for the weekend, whether you're up here at Bloomington Speedway or somewhere close to home, Brownstown, Twin Cities. I mean, Salem, Thunder Valley, they've pulled their stuff together this past race season and brought in a lot of good drivers and cars and teams. And it's like that pretty well anywhere you go, as far as good competition. And
yeah, it's like a lot of people don't think Salem has any competition. I mean, it's getting better and better and better every year. And you just go down there and you play. And that's for me. That little track, I go down there and just try to play around, and that brings up some pretty good racing because I'm not really serious about it, and I'm trying this and that, and but
mainly testing things.
Yeah, but it's sometimes it can be tough to win down there.
Oh yeah. I know. Seems like they've been getting about 10 to 12 cars on a regular night, and one thing I was impressed with about them is this past year, 2019 race season, it seemed like a lot of tracks were getting rained out, and somehow, some way, even after that big flood they had, they worked their tails off to get that place back up to par, and it was impressive to see how many shows they were actually able to get in through the season, considering how often other places were just canceling.
Yeah.
And I realize how hard that's got to be for a track promoter, any track, to, try to get the shows in.
Yeah. Well, Steve and Misty and the whole crew they got down there, they put lots and lots of effort out.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that the nights that, I ain't saying they should have ran every one of them. They did,
Right.
and that's good. Give everybody a place to run.
Yeah.
But they put, I'd say, as much effort out or more than any track around.
Right. Yeah, and you can't blame the promoters when they make that decision on, hey, we're gonna run, and then it comes down to your decision as a driver.
There you go.
But we all know, each and every driver, just about 95% of guys, I would say, are not going to load their stuff up and go home. They're going to race.
Well, that's like I've told them, and that's the whole thing about down there is, they want to run because they're on a every other week schedule usually, and they want to run, and then they got most of everybody does want to run.
Yeah.
I want to run.
Right.
But when the track's muddy, I've got the decision. Well, do I load up or do I run? Well, I'm a racer. I'm gonna go out and at least try anyway.
Yeah.
And for the most part down there, they've had the track in super, super good shape.
Right.
They've been a couple nights that it was a little choppy, and me, I'm outspoken. I make a couple comments about it, and don't really mean anything by it.
Right.
But just go out there, make some laps, get your starting money, and go home.
Right.
Come back next time they run, track's usually 3 times better, and like I say, for the most part, it's been pretty racy.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't think that track's big enough to race modified.
It is. But they put on a good show, I feel like. They had the Mars Series there in 2019. I think it got rained out and rescheduled.
Yeah.
But they were able to get it in. I believe Greg Johnson got the win.
Greg won. Yep.
Yeah. Which was good to see a local guy get that win on that kind of skill set that was there. And just sitting there thinking about over all the years that you've been doing it, what would be your biggest win, you think?
Yeah, the biggest win was the 5,000 down at Richmond.
Yeah.
And I would be the biggest win as far as in the modified. In the street stock, went over to Zanesville, Ohio, to a World Street Stock race.
Okay.
And I don't know, I think there was 200 and some cars there.
Wow.
And I started back in the middle of the pack, and I got to second, and made some pretty good money for second.
Well, there you go.
Should have had to won. They wanted to disqualify the guy that won, but I build cars for a living, and I wouldn't cry about what he was running.
Yeah.
And they wanted me to protest.
I see.
And I wouldn't do it, and it was $6,500 to win.
Well, that says a lot about you.
So I ended up, I took second, went home, and said, well, I'll know next time you can run that.
There you go. Right.
So.
Well, that's cool that you handled it that way, especially when they were putting the decision in your hands, basically. So I kind of had one question here that's kind of a weird one, I guess. But let's say if money wasn't even, nothing, and you could pick whatever kind of car you wanted to race, whether that be the super stocks up to late models or sprint cars or even asphalt, what would you run on a weekend?
Well, I've ran late model a little bit back in the day, but I had a street stock motor in it, and that didn't work very well.
Right.
If money was no object, I'd say I'd have to stay modified racing.
Yeah.
But for what I can afford,
I'm glad you said that.
The modified class, you can pretty well go anywhere around the United States and run. But the UMTAs and I don't even know what all's out there nowadays because
Yeah.
I don't keep up on it.
Right.
And but as far as you can have one or two cars,
Mm-hmm.
and if you want a UMP car, have a UMP car. You can go run anywhere you want to run.
Mm-hmm.
You want the MT, whatever, I don't even know what to call them, but you could go out there and run that series.
Yeah.
But I would say with no limit on money,
Yeah.
I would say I would do that and try to go out to some of the big races and that's what I used to do is go hit some of the big races.
Right.
And you just can't afford to go hit the big shows now.
Yeah.
Same way as going to Florida.
Yeah.
We've been to Florida several different years, and last year I took my car and I ran fourth in the Speedweek's points.
Yeah.
And I felt pretty good about that.
Oh, yeah.
Considering I was fourth in the points, and I think the three in front of me was the only guys that made every show down there that they ran, and I did. So
right.
I took all my used tires I could put in the back of the truck.
Yeah.
All my fuel I could put in the back of the truck, and I took off and went. Didn't buy hardly nothing on the road,
right.
So it'd been fun to go down there and race now with not having to worry about money.
Yeah. Right. Well, it's always been something I've thought about, never actually put the plans together to go, but of course I've had family that's went and friends, and I remember years ago when you and Short were together and you guys would go together, and seemed like Brady always ran pretty well down there.
Yeah, Brady run real good at East Bay. I never could run very good at East Bay. I think I only made one feature the whole time we was down there.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't suit me because it got a little too muddy.
Right. Well, I've only watched it on TV, I guess, and of course, watching on TV and being there is two different things, but it definitely looks like a fun place, So how many shows did you run in 2019, you think?
I didn't run too many. I think I run maybe a handful down at Little Salem, and then I think I run Brownstown in my car once or twice, and then in Bruce's car I ran once, and then I ran all the shows at North Vernon. That's pretty much about all the racing I done.
Yeah, I thought you guys ran North Vernon quite a bit this past season.
Yeah, I run down there because I run good down there.
Yeah.
Got the wall around there. Right.
You like the wall.
I like the wall.
Well, there ain't nothing wrong with that. So, speaking of the wall, how about Eldora?
Well, the last time I was at Eldora, well, I can't say the last time, second last time I was there, it was UMP National race. I ran fifth in the end of the year Nationals, and I had a good year that year. But up there, I ran and started 10th and got up to 4th, I believe it was, and guy spun out, and I thought they was going to drop the yellow. Okay. I let off of it, and about 10 cars passed me. And I got back up and run 5th in the Nationals, and I love Eldora. I just can't afford to go up there all the time.
Yeah, I understand. We went last season, took the mod up there, and it was tough. I think they had 37 cars, and luckily we made the show. Considering who was there, I felt pretty blessed to be able to accomplish that. Of course, as soon as we get there, it's raining. We already dropped over the edge, and we're down in the pits. There's no leaving, so it's just waiting it out. And they ended up getting the show in and done the best they could with the track. It was a little choppy, but not too bad, But we had a good time. It was the first time I had ever got to run on the track, and been there several times. Just never had the opportunity to drive on it. It's fast.
It's fun racetrack.
It's fun. I enjoy the half miles, but what's your thoughts on quarter, 3/8, half mile? What's your favorite?
I like the big tracks. I just can't afford to run them.
Right.
It takes horsepower. It takes,
does.
I've got a good motor today, but back when I ran all them tracks, I didn't have much of a motor.
Right.
And, no tires, you just go to the racetrack with what you got and
try to pick where you're going to be able to perform the best with what you got that weekend. Well, that's understandable, in today's economy, it can be tough. You go to the track, Some people, of course, it all varies on how many people is going with you, but it's pretty easy to spend a few $100 real quick
Well,
and just trying to get there.
Well, that's the way with me. I run everybody's used tires, and I think like this summer I had 5 new tires all summer.
Right.
So I'm trying to put another car together to run. I think Plymouth's got a 10,000 to win street stock race.
Okay.
I started building a street stock last year and run out of money.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a bomber street stock.
Right.
And run out of money, so it just sit there, and I'm finishing it up now, and I'm going to try to hit that 10,000 to win race up there this year.
Well, that'd be neat.
And up there at Shady Hill, and I wish some of the racetracks around here would get on what they're doing.
Yeah, bring in a big purse like that to bring in a lot of car count.
Yeah, even like in the modifieds up there at Shady this year, I'm already entered into one of their. It's a white lightning race the first night.
Okay.
You go up and you run the regular show, but then they've got so many, I think top 20 first entries get to go down there and requalify, and then the top 10 get to run a race for so much money.
Oh, okay.
And it's a bigger paying purse for that, and then you still get a race that night for the regular show.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking about the stock car deal for, they've got a deal called Lucky 7. And I'm trying to get this car together and maybe go up there and run them. And I think someone was telling me they're $1,000 to $2,000 to win each one of them races, and they got 7 of them.
Wow.
So if, I think I'm going to have to get out and travel a little bit like I used to with a stock car, I think.
Well, that'd be fun. Well, that's got to be a good time whenever you're building something specifically for a certain event, being a chassis builder and all the years that you've been, building race cars. I'm sure it makes it a lot funner when you got kind of an ultimate goal with this one specific car. Yeah. It's not something you're going to run every weekend, but hey, I'm going to go try it. Well,
that's what we're going to try to do. Is I still got to get my grandson in some this year.
Yeah.
And if it works out, we may put him in a stock car. I had that old modified for him, and we just let him play at Little Salem. Didn't want to get him on nothing bigger.
Yeah.
And I may put him in a pure stock or something, or street stock, and let him play with that where we can take him somewhere else too.
Yeah. Because
modifieds for a young kid with not much experience, I don't want. I'm not got enough money to really keep him running anyway. So
yeah.
We're just going to try to get him some laps until he gets up there 16 years old or so, and then
see how he's doing.
See how he does.
Go from there.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. What's your plans for 2020 as far as tracks you're going to hit local?
Well, I'll probably hit North Vernon a little bit.
Yeah.
And probably hit Salem a little bit. And if I can, I'd like to go back to Brownstown.
Mm-hmm.
Because the last race down there this season, I finally had a new tire on, had a new left rear spring on, and car was much better than what it had been down there. And I just, I like to go back there and try it a little bit. But
yeah,
I think I want to go up to Plymouth and try to run a few races to try to get ready for that 10,000 to win race.
Okay.
And see where you're at, Yeah. Then I definitely know we're going to run Shady Hill on and off a little bit for them if everything works out, where I can take maybe a modified 1 week, and then when they have the Lucky Sevens, take the street stock, bomber, whatever you want to call them nowadays. And I don't know. I'm not going to sit down and run for no points.
Try not to lock yourself into one track specifically.
Yeah, that's for sure. You know. I've never really sat down and ran for points, but when you start running and you run good, you're
lock yourself in,
locked in there.
Yeah, I understand. I've kind of done that myself over the years, and to be quite honest, anytime I tried to run for points, it seemed like I'd start off decent, really lock myself in, and then end up, when I was younger, it worked out, but seems like I don't have as much fun when I'm trying to chase points. I need to stay away from that myself.
I've always been one, and then people think I'm crazy, and a lot of people don't think he's not telling you the truth. But I've won several points championships, and I'm a believer in faith.
Yeah.
And like I've told everybody, that if you go to the racetrack, you go to win. You know, there's no doubt about that. But when you go and you just, if you're going to win, you're going to win.
Right.
If you ain't, settle in, get second, get third, whatever. I'm in it for trying to make a living.
Right.
So I go, and if I know I'm not going to win, then I try to settle in for second. And the points will fall where they're going to fall. And I've told so many people that I've built cars for, and you know that if it's meant to be, it's meant to be.
Right.
And me and Ryan Thomas, you know, we're pretty decent buddies.
Yeah.
And years ago, before he'd ever won a race, I kept telling him, I said, Ryan, quit putting so much pressure on yourself. And he finally quit putting the pressure on himself. And then he went up to camp back then, and he won a feature.
Yeah.
Then he won another feature next week. Then he won another feature. I said, see, you just got to
all
take
gonna
that
fall in
pressure
place.
off yourself. Don't say you're going to run for points. Don't say you're going to win this race. I mean, there's a lot of these young kids that's really cocky.
Right.
They're going and they want to let you know that they're going to win. Well, if you can beat me, beat me.
Right.
You know? I just go, and today, if you can go to any racetrack around and just be a top 5 finisher,
That's right.
you got to be happy with it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, everybody wants to win,
Right.
but you got to be happy with it.
Yeah.
And I was happy this summer. For the most part, I was.
Yeah.
On how I ran. But you know, it's kind of when you go and you beat your head against the wall.
Right.
You lose so much interest in wanting to race. And I've always said, whenever it's not fun to race, I'm gonna quit.
Yeah.
So that's the trying to get my grandson up and going. Maybe he can have fun.
Maybe you can get him to start having fun so you can quit.
Yeah. I mean, so. But,
well, you must be having fun to have done it for 38 years, right? Is that what we said earlier?
38 years.
38 years.
Yep. And I've had
That's a whole lot of fun.
Well, I've had a blast. I mean, you know, I've built thousands of race cars and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But anymore, I like the pro street cars and stuff.
Yeah.
And I've been getting into a lot of doing that.
Yeah.
And it takes some of the pressure off of thinking you have to go race every week.
Right.
You know, it's like used to. I had to, if it was race on Monday night, I was there. If it was race on Wednesday, I was there. And nowadays, I just pick and choose and just try to have fun.
Right. Well, you're definitely well known for, you know, a chassis builder and whether it's dirt or strip, you know, around these parts for sure. And I know you've built them for people all across the U.S. If anybody ever wanted to get in touch with you on getting a car built, how do you guys have your Facebook set up pretty good?
Yeah, it's we got a Hobbs chassis page.
Hobbs chassis page.
Yeah, we've got it. I've got a new Pro Street business card, trying to get something set up on it.
Yeah. And
we haven't got our Facebook up with it yet or anything, but a lot of people don't even know I do Pro Street drag cars and stuff.
Yeah. But unless they've come out to the shop and kind of seen your setup, they probably wouldn't know.
Yeah.
It's definitely interesting how you guys have operated for so many years in doing circle track and strip. You know, some people just focus in one area, but you've managed to done both for a long time.
Well, you have to pay the bills every month.
That's
so
right.
It's like, you know, sometimes the dirt car stuff, and it seems like today everything's getting so expensive, you don't sell as many new cars. I've still got cars out there that's 14, 15 years old that's winning races.
Right.
And people just, you know, they want to, for me, they want to keep what they got.
Yeah, if it's working, why change?
Yeah, you got, you know, you got so many of these other guys that's building these chassis and stuff, and a lot of high dollar drivers. You know, I mean, there's guys that's got a lot of money.
Right.
And
big name sponsors behind them.
Yeah. So I don't sell as many dirt cars anymore as what I used to.
Right.
Just for that fact.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to stay busy in the Pro Street stuff. Even it seems like there's a little bit more enjoyment nowadays
Yeah.
of seeing a lot of these older, the older people
Mm-hmm.
coming, and they talk to me a lot about what they done in their days, and
Oh, yeah.
and everything, and even some of the race car owners and drivers. Seems like when they start getting older, they like that pro street stuff even better. Then
Right.
gives them something to look forward to going and doing on Saturdays and Sundays.
Right. Yeah, I've got a good friend of mine that he's always asked me, he's like, I don't understand how you guys build these dirt cars to go out and to invest that kind of time and money and effort into going out and possibly destroying it in the first lap or two, and versus a guy that can build a strip car and go out for weekend after weekend for say 15, 20 years. And, most of the time they're not taking the sides out of the car, and, so that's an interesting topic all alone.
Yeah, I tell my brother-in-law and everybody that they drag race, and that's what I tell them. I said, I put more hours on my dirt car in one night, motor-wise, as you do in a whole summer.
Right. That's exactly right. Well, Lee, let's talk about your sponsors on board for 2020. Who's all going to be helping you guys out this season?
As of now, the Living Room Center is still going to be there, and Bullston Automotive helps me out, and Trent helps me out sometimes.
Yeah.
He does a good job on Letterman and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But I really ain't got many sponsors. I mean, just them guys. Oh, Travis Kern's Racing Engines. He helps us out quite a bit.
Right.
Think of anybody else on there. Really, like I say, I really don't have many sponsors.
Right.
I'm looking for them.
Right. Well, if anybody out there watches this video and would like to give Lee and the Living Room Center car help this season, I'm sure anything would help, and buy some tires and fuel, right, Lee?
That's the thing, is it's getting so expensive on just maintenance stuff that you need every week.
Right.
It's hard to do it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, when a tire costs $120 nowadays for a mod tire, and it takes tires to win races. We all know that. And then your fuel and for the truck and the car, and then pit passes, and list keeps going on and on and on. That's just for a regular night when nothing gets tore up. Yep. So it takes a lot to keep it all going. And I know sponsors on the cars always look good. It's a great way to advertise, and hopefully some big companies come on board for you guys this season and help you guys out. And we look forward to seeing you at the track. It's always a good time racing against you.
Yeah, I think we've had some pretty good races.
Oh, absolutely. Especially looking back over all the years, even most recently, anytime we run and I managed to somehow beat you, I know I had a good night. And it's always a fun time. Well, that concludes this episode of Off the Track, where you get the dirt. I'm Levi Gotze, and once again, we're here at Blue Chip Technologies Racing Engines. If you haven't already, be sure and like us on Facebook. You can also look us up on bluechiptech.net, or give us a call at 812-807-7050. We appreciate it. You guys have a good evening.